to Trading Tuesday. We got an action-packed schedule for you here today. We are joined by Jason Meyers, the founder of Auditchain, as well as Kenny Guerrero. He is the Forex director of the Ecom way. And of course, we got Alejandro in here as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us. How's everyone doing today?
Splendid, doing very well.
It's fantastic, but I'll get better.
Everyone's just trying to survive right now, but thank you guys so much for joining us. Definitely looking forward to this. Jason, tell the people, a little bit about yourself, who you are, what projects you're working on.
So I love when they crash traditional markets because it takes out all the suckers. And yeah, it's easy money. I've been doing it for 30 years, started as a banker, and very broad-based investment banking background. And in 2011, I had a fight with FINRA over an accounting, which lasted 3 years. And it inspired me to start a company called Auditchain. Auditchain is it's the world's first decentralized continuous audit and real-time financial reporting protocol. So if you're an enterprise, especially an issuer of digital assets, you plug in your accounting and related systems and you report in real time with external validation. So that's broad stroke about Auditchain. It's digital assets that flicker on a ticker, which all of them do. If you're going to come anywhere near the United States, the one thing that enables free transferability of a thing that flickers on a ticker is financial reporting. So every traditional asset files financial reports, only they do it periodically, once a quarter. That's not enough for digital assets because I can see your underwear on the blockchain at all times. And so I need contemporaneous GAAP compliant and or IFRS compliant financial disclosure so that I can see what you're doing with your money, who you're spending it on, how you're spending it, how you're accounting, the financial and operating condition of your project. Because so far, other than Bitcoin, I am dependent upon every project manager until they complete the project, sufficiently decentralize the project. I'm dependent upon them. So I want to know what they're doing. I want to know the financial condition of their project. Don't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the more transparency, the better. And that's the beauty of blockchain is, like you said, it allows, you just see the other guy's underwear for better or worse. It's hard to hide.
You're going to figure it out anyway, because some guy's going to try and corroborate the wallet addresses and where he's sending the money. You might as well do it anyway, right? So Hester Pierce is trying to do it. She wants to pass a safe harbor for 3 years. I think she's out of her mind if she's not going to include financial reporting. But her term is up in June anyway. So we have an alliance, by the way. It's called the DCARP Alliance. And there's about 60 members of the accounting, audit, and financial reporting community from all over the world. There's also lawyers, academics, and we're chewing on a supplement to her proposal, which we hope to maybe sneak into the next bill that comes out of the House Financial Services Committee while no one's looking. Because they did that with the digital dollar. It just didn't make it into the final bill.
Yeah, I saw that in the earlier drafts, the language that they were using, and the whole crypto space got pretty hyped. But as we know,
it didn't. Not hype. You don't want that, believe me, because you don't need Bitcoin, you don't need Ethereum. Every other crypto asset becomes unnecessary with a digital dollar. What do I need some branded digital coin for when I have a digital dollar? That actually does wonders for standardizing data. And it also geofences you around government surveillance. You don't want a digital dollar. I mean, if you're a libertarian, you don't want a digital dollar, right?
Right.
So, for so long as there is no digital dollar, there's always going to be our branded factions of coins that do certain things that address certain use cases. Once you have a digital dollar, that's it.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Very well.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yep.
Jason. Kenny, tell us, a little bit about yourself, what you're working on, and what projects you got going on as well.
Right. Thank you. Like Jason, I'm on the other side of the spectrum when it comes to cryptocurrency. I'm not too concerned with the applications, which are like smart contracts, which are extremely great. I'm buying and selling currency through a broker, right? So I analyze the charts on a technical perspective, and I determine whether I want to come in for the buy or sell. I have multiple strategies that I use, some involving moving averages, and others just doing a top-down analysis, which means that I'm going from the higher time frames all the way down to the lower time frames to determine whether I want to take action, right? I've been trading for about 4 years now. I mostly do a lot with Forex. And from Forex, I've noticed that it is a lot of the same strategies that can be applied to both markets, right? So I started off learning and my journey through Forex, and there I transitioned into Bitcoin to then be able to produce on a Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as well, right? The same strategies can be applied to Ethereum, can be applied to Bitcoin, and also Ripple, right? My company is the Ecom way, and what we do is we educate people on different strategies, whether it's the Forex market, whether it's the cryptocurrency market, right? We teach strategies that are profitable and help traders become self-sufficient so that they can trade on their own.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Definitely a lot to talk about right now with everything going on in the markets. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I guess let's just start with Bitcoin. It's the fan favorite here. Personally, I'm not a huge trader myself. Definitely a toxic, Bitcoin maximalist permabull. But cautiously,
like Gator.
shout out to Gator one time. But cautiously bearish right now. I mean, ever since the Corona apocalypse popped off, I mean, we were smooth sailing. We were back above 10K. Things were looking bright and blue skies, and the Roner came and smacked us. I think we touched 3.8 at one point in time. So I mean, the level I'm kind of looking at right now to turn like full on toxic bullish again is going to be to see if 8K breaks. But I want to ask the three of you guys, like, what is your current perspective on Bitcoin? What levels are you watching? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Just break it down for me and for our viewers.
Well, first of all, you missed my introduction, bro.
So, sorry, Alejandro. Alejandro, a resident here, resident host of Trading Tuesday. But yeah, so, my bad, Alejandro. Give the people a little blur.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah, no, I just wanted to welcome both of our guests. Awesome that we have. I definitely would like to pick your brain more, Kenny, so far, since you've been doing Forex for 4 years. And trading crypto, personally, for me, it's always been so difficult because it's so damn volatile, where even I do penny stocks during the day. And also do, of course, one of the guys watching with us, I call him the Options Oracle. Shout out to S.E. Robinson. He apparently teaches options and whatnot. So learn to trade that way. But with crypto, there's no oversight, no nothing. There is no ER. There's no earnings reports. And so obviously it's just very difficult. But anyway, what I want to get with Bitcoin is, I think like a lot of other people in the space, is I discovered it in 2012, but I didn't invest. Finally got into it early 2017. Decided to hodl. Didn't sell it in December, which was my mistake. But let's just say that I discovered around the same time about blockchain. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty interesting stuff. So found out about the blockchain center last year. That's where I met Matt, super chill dude. And now talking about Bitcoin prices and the halvings coming up. So let's see.
Most definitely. So, you did mention that, Bitcoin is a little harder to trade, right? And coming from a Forex background, right, I noticed that from an institutional point, I like to trade its institutional point, and it's the way banks and big institutionals are trading, right? So they leave footprints in the market that make it easy for us to identify, right? Bitcoin doesn't necessarily do that. So Bitcoin is a lot more volatile, and you kind of have to approach it with a different strategy, rather than looking for footprints or easy targets that are left by the market, as opposed to like the Forex market or stocks, right? Personally, I'm still bearish on Bitcoin, simply because of some of the few things that I'll go over once we get to the charts. But it's until I see a break, as you mentioned, Matt, above 8K, and it actually holds with a retest on that area, then I'm still thinking bearish. I'm looking for bearish opportunities until that happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Jason, what's your perspective on the current state of Bitcoin?
So I don't really look. I use it as a rail. I don't trade it. It is very difficult to trade. It probably shouldn't be traded. We have the halving that's coming up, and what that actually means for your viewers is that those who are working to secure Bitcoin will now be working for half the reward, but their fixed costs will be the same.
Oh, wow.
So the biggest supply of Bitcoin in the markets are for miners, because, as you know, it's 12.5 now, and in a month less, it'll be 6.25 Bitcoin. Will that make the price go up? It depends upon how many of those miners pivot to something else to mine because their expenses are too high. Is one way to look at it. Another way to look at it, which a lot of people look at, is that there's less of a supply. So half the amount of Bitcoin there'll be half the amount of Bitcoin that's for sale. Do I think it's going to 100,000? I don't make those predictions. I'm bullish on Bitcoin. I am bullish on the Bitcoin way of life. Mm. It's the purest form of democracy on earth, and it is the purest form of decentralization. Even Ethereum has a button, and Vitalik and Joe have each a button. Bitcoin's got no buttons, unless you think Blockstack is a button, but who knows? So up or down, I don't predict, and I don't trade it. I use it as a rail. I always keep it in inventory because I pay people with it, and I use it rather than speculate with it. The one thing about any non-asset-backed, earnings-backed, equity-backed digital asset is there's no reasonable assumption as a starting point with respect to how you value it. If you're going to value the way of life, then it's invaluable, and therefore you shouldn't be trading it. And most of the bigger guys, the top 30 wallet addresses, they don't really trade it. They just hold it, right? And so that's my feelings about Bitcoin. Ethereum, on the other hand, is different because Ethereum has a bigger use case. It's a different scripting language. It's flexible. You can add complexity. You've got smart contracts. You can build decentralized applications on it. It's got more of a utility than Bitcoin does. I wouldn't use it as a medium of exchange or as a rail the way I would Bitcoin. But, and then you've got everybody else, right? They all have their supposed use cases. So, that's my feeling about Bitcoin.
Jason, I got a question from one of the traders that's watching this. He actually says, his question is, why would you pay people with Bitcoin if it's so volatile compared to fiat?
Some people don't live in the fiat world, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I have to admit, look, Apple Pay has made it really easy at point of sale. JP Morgan and Zelle, right? That's frictionless payments. So, your viewer is right. But some people prefer not to live in the fiat world. There are a lot of people that don't believe in fiat, that believe they're libertarians, they're anarchists, they're cypherpunks, and they want nothing to do with fiat. And, I don't blame them. Look what's happened. We printed $6 trillion. Trillion. I mean, it was a monstrosity. In 2008, when we printed $700 billion for the banks, that was like, oh my God.
Yep.
We just printed $6 trillion. Is that money coming back? Are we getting, we got a lot of it back from the financial crisis. If you comply with the CARE Act, it's forgiven. The Fed and its $4 trillion is buying bonds, so they'll get that back. But will they take it off their balance sheet? No, of course not. No, this is the mother of all prints. Oh my God! So, if you're a Bitcoin purist, you're looking at the traditional financial system, the fractional reserve central banking system, and you're like, you've just reinforced the case of the inscription on the Genesis block. It's like, Chancellor Ponder's 18th bailout for banks now. Only it's the whole economy, right? It's a bridge loan, right? And it is, which is why it's easy money in the stock market right now. You're a fool if you're selling stocks here. You should be sucking it up, both hands, both feet. There are certain companies that rule the world. There are probably six companies that rule the world now. Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Google, who just reported today, stocks up $100 in the aftermarket. They were all scared at the end of the day. Oh my God, up 100 in your face.
We got a fifth guy jumping into the stream. Some of you might know him, none other than the very own Bitcoin pioneer himself, Nick Spanos. Nick, how's it going, buddy?
What's going on? I got Jason. Jason, what's going on, Jason?
Easy money, brother. Easy money. Forget about Bitcoin. You should be sucking up these big companies right now. Amazon reports on Thursday. They're going to twist people's heads off. It's trading. It closed at 23.14. It's now 23.45. It'll be 2,500 after they report.
So Amazon went up. Which companies did you say? Amazon, Facebook,
Google, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Square.
I've got a question. What about the toilet paper companies?
What is that?
Toilet paper, dude.
What,
toilet paper.
Procter Gamble? That play is over, dude. You had your chance.
Oh.
Come on. This could never get any better. Nothing is getting... Conditions cannot get any better for Procter & Gamble. Never in the history of the company have they ever experienced such a rise in demand to the point where they can't deliver. Toilet paper, Scott tissue, 1,000 sheets. Where is it? Nowhere.
Down the drain, baby.
Right? Shopify is another one. That's a monster. That one's going to be $700 by the time we get off this thing.
Wow. I know those guys. I know those two Canadians. I should try to get them on the show. I got you on the show here because I think that you have a very unique perspective.
I mean, there are a lot of ERs coming out this week. It's ER Central this week. I know that at the end of the day today, a lot of Google had their ER.
$100.
Yep.
At the end of the day, they were like, "Oh, I don't want to hold it. Oh, I don't want to." Boom, up 100 in your face. Get out. Don't ever come back.
So, I mean, what's I guess while we're on the topic of the stock market, what stocks are you guys looking at right now? I know one of our favorites here is Tesla. Are you bullish on Tesla?
Tesla's another one. They're a monster. He's a superhero. Don't count him out. There's a guy named Jim Chanos who's short the stock. He's nervous, but he's a big player. His money's long. He thinks that it's a car company. And to the extent he's right, but it's so much more than that. It's a cult stock, right? It's got $141 billion market cap. It'll be $1,200 in a year, probably a lot sooner. That's a cult stock.
Kenny, do you mess around with Tesla at all, or
my trading partner? Go ahead.
Not much involved with the stocks. To be honest with you, I have been looking at some some gaming companies that have been doing pretty well. Activision and software developments in the gaming world, they're doing well. But other than that, I strictly mostly stick to the Forex side, to the foreign exchange market.
Look, I just want to say one other thing.
Sure.
The time to write an insurance policy for flood insurance, if you are a flood insurance underwriter, is while the fucking house is underwater. While it's underwater and immediately after. Why is that? Because I can get the most amount of money for my premiums with zero risk. What's the chance of the house going underwater again?
Interesting.
Same with the fire insurance. The time to write insurance policies for fire insurance is while the scavengers are boarding up the house, right? The time to buy stocks is when Bill Ackman says America is going to zero. Zero. I couldn't believe I heard it. We used to make fun of people who were so scared at the bottom. That guy actually came out and said, America is going to zero.
Wow.
Big prediction there.
That Ackman bottom. That's the Ackman bottom. Never forget it. The time to buy stocks is when people are jumping out of windows, when everyone around you says you're crazy.
True. Alejandro, I'm sorry. Were you trying to say something earlier? Was that about Elon or?
Oh no! I was saying that SC, the trader who was asking questions, he bought $1,400 calls in Tesla last week. He made some good bank off of it, like just option trading. So I mean, I joined them on one of the runs, and we made some good money off of Tesla calls. But yeah, I don't know. Just there is definitely money to be made in the current market for sure. I'm just waiting on Bitcoin. Regarding the crypto, I'm waiting on Bitcoin right now to do what's gonna do. And personally, my estimate is if history is going to repeat itself in terms of fundamentals, as Kenny was saying, is we're going to reach a peak come the halving, and it's going to dump afterwards for a few months. But who knows? That's why, Kenny, I want to pick your brain more after this. But yeah.
Absolutely. Kenny, do you mess around with gold at all?
Yes. I do look at gold simply because I'm looking at the US dollar. And, they're correlated inversely, right? So as the US dollar is going down, it's a safe haven, right? So people are going to take their money out of the US and dump it into gold, right? So, we've been seeing a bullish run.
That's true.
Pretty strong bullish run the past, about 3-4 weeks ago, right? We saw good bullish run in gold. Another pair that's very volatile, right? So it is difficult to trade, but as long as you have your risk management in order, it's all good, right? So, but I do keep a close eye on gold, and it's interesting to see. Right now we are tanking a little bit, so I could see a bullish run for gold.
Do you think that there was a little double top there at like 1740 and that gold is bound to come back down, or do you foresee another like liquidity crunch, liquidity crisis where everyone just dumps everything again for cash?
I don't see that happening right now, especially not for cash. Just because of the uncertainty that's going on, right? Like I said, it's once there's so much uncertainty in the world and there's so much uncertainty going on, it's really tough for investors that want to pour their money back in, right? So they're going to look for safe havens like the yen, and they're going to look for the Swiss franc and things like that. Start buying assets in those areas rather than invest back in the dollar per se.
Gotcha.
Don't you?
Yeah, go ahead, Alejandro.
Sorry. No, a question for you, Kenny. Don't you think that gold right now has already done its liquidation? Like right now, gold is moving sideways. I mean, we could maybe go through another downturn come if there's a second wave of the coronavirus come the fall. But I feel like gold right now is more or less stabilized at this very moment.
I think that is manipulated. I don't know what kind of indicator it is in the long run. I think it's just so manipulated that guys like our buddy Jason Meyers down on Wall Street or wherever the hell they are manipulate the price of gold all the time, right, Jason?
What's that?
Gold. How do they manipulate the price of gold?
I don't really know, Nick. I don't really, gold to me is it's an it's an inanimate object. It's not interesting for me. I mean, I understand why people like it. At 1721 here, the dollar index right now is at pretty high, right? And that's because you've got demand for dollars, which means assets are still being liquidated somewhere, and people want dollars for them. But that trade's going to reverse, and that might benefit gold, right? As Kenny just said, right? But that's one of the real reasons, right? Because you have 6 trillion with a T, trillion extra dollars out there.
Absolutely. We got Adam Manka, Zap's own, the prodigal son here, tuning in.
Adam.
What's up, guys?
From North Carolina.
North Kakalaki. You say it right.
I thought it was Buffalo.
I don't know. I'm a man of many places.
Wait, you're in North Carolina with your girlfriend now? Or you're back in Buffalo?
I'm undisclosed location, somewhere south of Mason-Dixon.
Yeah, some of us have girlfriends. Yeah.
The next question I got is really for anyone in the conversation here, and if you guys are watching at home on the live stream, feel free to jump in. But as we kind of take a look at the underlying fundamentals of the economy, unemployment, I think at least at 26 million, if not 30 million now, about 20% of the nation is out of a job. You take a look at the stock market, it seems that the markets are completely detached from reality. So
they always are. Always.
No, they're very in tune with reality. The market's going up just means they're printing more money.
Yeah, so
that's the inflated price. Is you get a whole payout from the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, the fundamentals definitely seem to be out the window. I mean, yeah, come on, it's the Federal Reserve just printing the money right now. Like, I don't think we're going to full fallout of what's going on until end of Q2.
It's not
when you have all the April, May, June, all the companies performing the Q2. That's where we're going to see the true fallout of all this. But for right now, I think it's being propped up mostly. I mean, the airlines are still waiting for their bailouts. Oil's in the shitter. I definitely want to look forward to an oil bottoms or near bottoms so I can buy that up. But
it's not
as of right now, it definitely seems, for me at least, it definitely seems to be disconnected.
Let me interject here. I don't think it's
already.
I don't think it's an increase in the stock price. It's a devaluation of the U.S. dollar.
What?
It's not an increase in stock price. It's a devaluation of the U.S. dollar. It has nothing to do with the stock price going up. It's just that there's more money.
No, I didn't hear that.
There's no increase. There's an increase in supply. Therefore, there's more dollars available to be purchasing stock. So it's inflation, man. It's got to be. I mean,
let me put it. If I may, let me put it another way. A corporation's ability to return on its equity far outruns the debasement of the dollar.
Not if the government can print more and more and more. They get grants all day, left and right. PPP, EIDL, anything that you want. They're just getting more and more money. They have a 0 interest lend rate and 0 requirement to hold any funding in the bank right now. Nobody has any idea how much money they're printing.
The more money that gets printed, the more valuable stocks become, not just because they're grabbing some of that money, but the value of an asset that outruns the debasement of the dollar through return on equity will always go up in value. 50% of the stock market performance is attributable to the debasement of the dollar. And the other 50% is good management, good money management, asset management.
The other 50,
buying and selling stocks. I'm talking about whatever your company does.
The other 50% is, my far distant cousin in Buffalo and South Buffalo with, an extra $1,200 sitting in his pocket thinking he's going to outplay the system because of stocks crashed. They're all just buying it, wait until the next paycheck when they're going to sell it, when they got to pay rent, or maybe not get kicked out of their house because they live in New York State, and who the hell is going to kick them out of their house? They don't have to spend anything right now. Nick's a landlord. He'll tell you right now. Nick, how many people paying their rent right now?
Yeah, that number went down.
They're all just gambling in the stock market until they got to pay rent. That's the reality. All that $1,200 straight up. It's like everybody with whoever registered in the welfare system taxes. They're all in there.
I don't have money for rent, whatever. And I was like, all right, whatever. I said, all right. And all of a sudden, there were like 40 boxes from Amazon showed up. The next 2 days, over a few days, like 40 different things. Literally 40 different things showed up. Were Amazon.
That's the best.
That big bought, but.
Oh, Scott wants to hear price predictions. All right, so let's do round robin. Let's price predictions for Bitcoin. What at the halvening or what? Scott, you gotta be more specific. Price predictions when?
Before we get to the price predictions,
okay.
I do just want to say one interesting theory I've heard from the keyboard warriors, and there might be some merit to this, is if oil wasn't at rock bottom, like you said, if oil wasn't in the shitter, we would probably see hyperinflation a lot sooner. But because oil, I think right now, oil's the cheapest it's been since the 80s. So because you have oil so low, keeping like the cost of inputs down so much, you're going to see a lag. If not, you're not really going to see hyperinflation because the price of oil is so cheap. So I just want to hear your feedback. If you guys think that's a legitimate theory, if you think, it's a coincidence that oil's crashing as JPOW money printer is going burr. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have heard about, of course, deflation being thrown around. I would say I am ignorant about what exactly the process, how it would be like, but since everyone's still stuck in their damn houses, I guess that makes sense. I mean, I think inflation, not hyperinflation, but I think inflation is going to kick in sometime later this year once everything's back online. I mean, we did print out $6-7 trillion. I don't know.
Trillion. I can't believe I like the way that rolls out. Trillion.
Rolls off the tongue.
My dad said if they gave my dad one job and they said, Simon, burn all this money, he wouldn't even know where to start. Like light it on fire. Like you couldn't even do it. It would just be such a massive number. Like how you would even burn that much money if it was physically printed? You have no ability to do so. Jason, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, by the way. I'm just saying that this entire economy is a circus. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how it's still around, but I guess the USA has a value deeper than the money that we print, being a global base currency. I just think it's absurd to think that we know anything about the economy when there's people that crap out $1 trillion for no reason whatsoever other than their buddy owns a bank, and there's no accountability for them. It's only on us. And at the end of the day, I think Bitcoin is still the most sound investment. I think, practically speaking, I know you're Auditchain, right? Is that? Yeah. I think I sincerely believe that they have an inability to understand Bitcoin, and I mean this like they think they understand it, but it's been presented to them in a way that, how do I put this? They got, it's like you read the cliff notes of a book, but you never understand the meaning. They got the cliff notes. Warren Buffett was sitting there. He got an update. You can give 3 craps. The guy doesn't care about new technology as much as he does maintaining his wealth. He knows if he has the banks in his pocket or somebody big in his pocket, they can print as much money, and nothing we do in the next 5 years is going to change that. It's over time and the building of a revolution, as my friend Nick says all the time. We have to embody and live crypto. A lot of people sitting there, the influencers, everything, they're thinking about how many dollars they made. I don't even know what a dollar is. I'm still looking at the Bitcoin number because it's the only thing that makes sense. When you print, that much money and inject it into the economy, I don't even know what the GDP is. What is it? How much is it? Is it like, can somebody?
22 trillion.
Yeah. So 22 trillion is the GDP, and we printed almost half, right? Right now is what there's.
To be fair, we have $125 trillion in assets in the U.S. How much of those are foreign owned? I'm not sure, but it's like 125. So
how many? Verified by who? Who even knows? I mean, what do they own you? They do own you, right? So I guess so. Maybe like the dollar number doesn't even make any sense because it could change tomorrow. It could be 220 by tomorrow. Who knows? We have no idea. There's never been an audit of the Federal Reserve. Nobody has any remote clue of how much money is in existence. And, maybe they have some kind of checks and balances there. I highly doubt it, but there's a reason we should audit them because I think their books would say a little bit different.
What do you think there?
Meyers. You mentioned the word inflation before. I don't remember who it was. So GDP is 22 trillion. We just printed 6 trillion. So now what you have to do is take that loaf of bread, right? That used to cost what? $2.99 for a loaf of Arnold's 12 or 7 grain bread.
You talking about the guns and butter index? Is that what we're getting down to?
A dozen eggs, right? A dozen eggs, which means that the price, the thing becomes more valuable than the currency you use to pay for it.
What I'm saying is, we've been told the number. I don't think anybody's checked the actual numbers. I don't think there's a person alive that could count that much money. I don't think there's a computer system alive that'd be able to tell you. I don't even know if what they're telling me is real.
Within a trillion, you can know how many dollars there are outstanding simply by counting the amount of debt there is outstanding. Every single dollar that is outstanding is backed by $1 of debt. When we got taken off the gold standard twice, right? because of the printing presses that went to work under FDR,
Yeah.
right? Little people can't own gold. Sorry, we need the gold because we need to back it as much. We need to back the dollar as much as possible. And
That's
then
the best.
when Nixon took us off the gold standard, it was because there wasn't enough verifiable gold to back every dollar in the system. And so we became a fiat free floating currency. There used to be very prominently published the M1, M2, M3 money supply. You've got to dig into the dark web to find the M3, the money supply numbers. I'm being facetious, but they don't publish that stuff anymore. The same components that make up how inflation is measured are different now than they were when Reagan's inauguration day, Clinton's inauguration day, for that matter, right? There is certain inflation pressures, but it's disguised very well. So let's take the average ticket price of a weekly grocery bill in 1980, right? Which was $45, $50, Nick, right? Back then. Now,
Sure.
like, kind, and quality of the food that you bought for $50 for the week in 1980, in order to get the same like, kind, and quality, you now have to go organic. If you go organic, the average ticket is $500 to $700 a week.
It's hard to track any of this because there's so many variables. Now you're getting into like, kind, and quality. That's a subjective measurement. There's all these different things that come into play, like what you're saying right now. And I think I agree with what you're saying. You're saying that there is a way that they work out numbers, and I could come up with a different measurement. I could say, whatever, all I'm trying to say, I guess, at the end of the day is that Tron's probably more of a valid coin than the US dollar at this point in time. And that pains me to say because I was born in America. I think Tron probably has more scrutiny on the US dollar. Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, Federal Reserve note. You're right. Thank you for correcting me. I'm just saying that all these subjective measurements and what's being spoon-fed, like kind and quality, guns and butter index, GDP, the Bretton Woods Agreement, these sound like a bunch of things that are meant to confuse me and don't make any sense. What makes sense is a transaction from one person to another person with limited supply, and that you can't just arbitrarily print more and fuck up the whole system. The underlying variable that is at the source of this is how much money have they printed. I don't think anybody could probably provide a good enough reason why they printed the money or how much money they printed. If we audited them, I bet you whatever, I can't bet you a US dollar because it's not worth anything, but I can bet you something else.
How do we make money trading knowing all this? What do we have to do? Trading.
They're never going to do
that shit.
Oh, it's very easy.
$4 outstanding. Centralized governments will always be more powerful than the people they scare.
With an attitude like that, maybe.
It's a fact.
I don't think so.
I'm with you. Don't get me wrong. I am totally with you. I've been around too long, I guess. Right?
No, I don't think it's a matter of time. I just think it's we didn't have trustless systems in the same way that we did. Like, we never had a smart contract that's a computer making the decision over a person that's going to weigh it and rule in the opposite direction after you get paid a contract. A smart contract's Boolean. It's either true or false depending on what way you look at it. The layer 2 and layer 3 blockchains are a significant innovation because they take into Poisson difficulty and all these other different metrics that come into, what is the truth? Is it feasible for me to 51% attack a network if I'm going to lose all my money? No, that's like direct democracy. That's something the Greeks invented, I think, if I'm not mistaken. They're pretty sharp. But the problem is,
we knew about Windows also.
Well, it comes down to a couple of things. I think I have a hard time encouraging discussion about what the U.S. economy is doing at any given time, because who the hell knows? Nobody knows. You get Schiff in here. He's going to tell you that carrying a 40-pound bag of gold to the grocery store is the way to pay for your stuff. That's ridiculous. And you're going to get another guy in here. He's going to say, no, GM stock is the best thing that ever left. Another guy's going to say the U.S. dollar has never been stronger. It's like, it's super subjective. The one thing that doesn't lie is limited supplies and people trying to come over digital scarcity, like Bitcoin. Digital scarcity makes it all work. Scarcity is the base economics. I think that all this other shit is subjective, and 40 different people given in a room, you have one opinion. I know my opinion's right because you're not going to print new Bitcoin. Nobody is. And all this other crap is just who the hell knows. There's no argument that they could print more money tomorrow if we get, Trump out, Biden goes in, he thinks the solution is to tell the Federal Reserve to print, $22 trillion. And then 3 other people that he appointed agree with him. They're going to do it. I mean, it's a guy sitting at a computer at the end of the day that's an underpaid intern with the authority to hit a 0 on a button. And he sits there, and at some point in time, it's some guy, maybe smarter than me, maybe less smart than me, I don't know. But he hits a button, and all of a sudden there's more money in the economy. How the hell does that work? He could sneeze and hit 2 zeros. Who knows?
It's been working beautifully in the last 30 days. Beautifully. Works beautifully.
All right. So let's.
For who? The 26 million people that are out of work?
Sorry, guys. I know we could do like a whole probably 3-hour special on the political fundamentals here, but we are in Trading Tuesday. We are fortunate to have Kenny here with us. So we do only have 10 minutes left, but I would like to have Kenny run us through some chart analysis for all the TradingView fiends out there. I know you guys want some charts. So Kenny, anything in particular you'd like to show the people?
Who let me on here? I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yep. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. So as you can see my chart here.
Got you, buddy.
Awesome. So just to dive in very quickly on the type of analysis that I do, it's strictly technical, right? I do a top-down analysis, which means that I'm going from the higher time frame all the way down to the smaller time frames, and I'm using the higher time frames to gauge that overall trend that I'm looking for, right? So if I'm going from the higher time frames into the smaller time frames, I'm looking for opportunities within the smaller time frames based on my analysis from the higher time frame, right? So here on TradingView is a very great charting software that a lot of traders use, right? We have our Fibonacci retracement tool, which is very, very powerful in the world of Bitcoin, right? We have these special levels that are highly respected, right? Which are our 1618, our 705, and our 786, right? These are deep discounted areas where price will like to retrace back to before continuing its next impulse move, right? Within the market, we have what's known as impulse moves and retracement moves, right? Retracement moves kind of set us up for the next impulse moves that are supposed to occur, right? So the first thing I like to do is go to my higher time frame, which is the weekly, and I'm gonna go ahead and draw a Fibonacci from the start of the impulse all the way down to the bottom of the impulse. I'm gonna start from the top all the way down if it's a downward movement, a bearish move. And I'm just going to highlight these deep discounted areas, right? We can go ahead and name this weekly Fib 618 area. Right. Okay, great. Now we found an area on the weekly time frame that price is most likely to retrace to before continuing its next impulse move downward, right? So we can now move down forward to the daily, and the daily is going to offer a bit more information, right? What we like to do is then go ahead and find the last impulse move on the daily time frame, right? The last impulse on the daily time frame was this move here that started here all the way down. And we go ahead and highlight that 61 area again. And I'm just gonna delete the fib so it's not too messy. Awesome. So now we have our daily area, we have our weekly area. We can also go down, we name this one daily fib level. And I'm using the 61.8 level because it's more respected than all the other levels in cryptos, is what I found, right? So what we can go ahead and do is go now to our 4 hour and find that last impulse move on the 4 hour and mark up that fib. And we can go ahead and highlight this area here. Okay. Now, we have 3 different areas marked up. We have our 61.8 level on the 4 hour, we have it on the daily, and we have it on the weekly time frame. What I like to do in this case is follow price, right? So for example, if we were looking at this big drop that occurred from March all the way to mid-March, right? We start highlighting these areas where we can expect a reaction from, right? So our first area would have been here. And we noticed that price, we saw somewhat of a reaction in this area, but what it really wanted to do was come test the daily Fibonacci zone, right? So from this daily Fibonacci zone, we could have received a nice sell opportunity that would have a lot of pips in Bitcoin because it's very volatile, right? This is about 10,000 pips, right? So depending on what lot size you put on it, whether it's 0.1, 0.01, you can make money on that as well, right? So by marking up these different Fibonacci zones on the higher time frame, I can now notice that we are entering our weekly fib level, right? So our weekly fib level is the strongest fib level that we're going to encounter. So what we can expect is within this area to start seeing some form of accumulation, right? Where, distribution phase, where price is going to consolidate and then make its way down to potentially target down these lows here, right? So with this top-down analysis, you kind of start from the 4 hour, you get ideas, okay, well, if price breaks above this level, now I can start targeting my daily fib. Okay, if my daily fib, if price breaks above my daily fib, I can now go to my last line of defense, which is my weekly fib, and start looking for short opportunities in this case here. Now, if we break this weekly fib level, then I'm no longer considering shorts. I'm switching over to the buying opportunities right? But not until we break this weekly fib level am I going to start thinking buys, right? Now we can actually start reading price action, right? What price is actually printing, and we're starting to see some equal highs in this area, right? Equal highs is where liquidity is left, is where, a lot of people who come in for shorts here and shorts here, they start moving their stop losses to break even. And what price is going to want to do is take all of these traders out who have already prematurely put their stop losses to protect their trades, take them out so that it can then tank downward, right? Right now, we are in a very, critical time where at this time, the best thing to do is just read price, right? What is price, producing? Is it producing, candlesticks that are showing bearish movement? For example, bearish engulfing candlesticks, evening stars, right? On the 5 minutes and 15 minutes, we can start to see price producing an evening star here on the 15 minutes, right? So can this indicate in the short term some short-term sells? Yes, I believe so, right? We have this point of interest, which I like to mark up, especially in institutional trading, wherever we see price or banks, they buy to sell, we start to mark that area, right? This is an area where people bought to sell. Now with Bitcoin, it's really hard to see, to understand who's in charge. So is it big institutions? Is it, who's really behind the money? It's hard to really say, right? But we can still gather these footnotes where, okay, we bought to sell here. So this is an area where price is going to be attracted to then potentially start dropping down lower, right? And we're starting to see that over the course of the last few days. We're starting to see consolidation in this area. So now price can be gathering momentum to start pushing down lower. So that is why I have a bearish outlook on Bitcoin for the time being. Some targets that I have set here, and this is actually a trade idea that is not looking too bad if I am able to put here my short position. I will have my stop loss above these areas, and my target, my first take profit will be at these lows. These equal lows, and my second take profit will be at these equal lows. Right, very volatile pair. So be very cautious with whichever lot size you do use. But this is my overall outlook on Bitcoin. And now we can actually see price kind of printing a little lower, but we'll just give it some time.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Let me get everyone back in here. I think that's exactly the type of content that the people were looking for. I know we can easily get a little bit off topic there. I apologize to the audience. We definitely do need a separate show to
Still loading.
Discuss the politics. But just to wrap up here, I do want to get a BTC price prediction from everyone on the on here. So I guess we could start with Adam or Nick, whoever wants to go first. Where do you think Bitcoin is going to be? Let's say day of the halvening and then end of the year. Where do you think it'll end up? Nick, you want to kick us off?
Listen, I don't really know what type of traders are on there. You got these institutional guys that came in, and it used to be pretty predictable. When we had good news, the thing went up. When there was bad news, it went down. Now all these sleaze bags showed up, and they figured out to do what they do on Wall Street, and it's a little difficult to recognize whether these guys figured out a way to do X, Y, and Z beforehand or after. So, I don't know what the prediction is. I believe, of course, that Bitcoin is much more than just a price to me. Can you put a price on freedom? Hard.
Right.
So I'm all in. I've always been all in, and I'm always going to be all in. I think it's going to, of course, it's going to moon. I don't know, but it's going to re-moon. It always moons. It goes down, and then it goes up. So there's a happening. There's a 12.5 Bitcoin. Go to the miners every 10 minutes. It's going to go to 6.25. So 6.25 times divide over the 24 times 60 times 6. That's how many Bitcoin, less Bitcoin are going to be traded. After a while, it really hits this like it used to. I remember when the halving would hit big because the actual volume wasn't out there the way it is now, and they didn't have all these other futures and stuff like that, and that the government curiously allows everyone to create out of because they like that to keep the price down. So I'm not sure. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. How about that?
No problem. And yeah, just if we want to get a technical, right now there's approximately, give or take, 1,800 Bitcoins that are mined daily. In about 12 days, on either May 11th or May 12th, that's going to drop to only 900 new Bitcoins being mined daily. So instead of 12 and a half pumping out every 10 minutes roughly, it'll be 6.25. Jason, any big numbers from you? Any big price predictions?
I can't put a value on a way of life.
That comes from a big trader.
I don't trade Bitcoin. I keep it. I use it.
Love it.
It was
Love
a
it.
fucking trading show.
11K, 2.5 months.
11K, 2.5 months. Okay, Alejandro.
All right, so I'm going to go a little deeper. I know that Scott was asking for 2022, so I'll get there as well. I'm going to be super bullish. Right now, we're almost at 8K. I'm going to be super bullish and say that at the moment of halving, we're going to touch 10K. I know it's crazy, but I want to believe. But regardless, I definitely do believe it's going to go up in price until then. Afterwards, looking at the fundamentals from the past, not saying it will repeat, but I believe that it will stay flat for a few months. In other words, it'll go back down to 7K, maybe 6K for a few months afterwards, and then we'll see an increase. Unlike last time, where it started to bump up in December or January 2017, that was like the halving was in July 2016, right? I feel like it's going to take longer just because the cycles seem to be taking longer. The pump or the moon tends to be happening later on in the 4-year cycle of the halvings. So I would say we're going to start to really see some action in 2021. Let's say by 3/4 into 2021, 70K. I'll be that optimistic. And then 2022, I think we'll see the peak at around 110. But that would be probably like in March, and afterwards it's all downhill from there.
Tell you what,
Predictions, man. I'm surprised the Moon Boys in the chat aren't going crazy.
I'm not that smart. I will allocate money to you. I will split the profits with you, but there's a high the high watermark is the rate of return on the S&P 500 over the next 12 months. That's your high watermark. So you have to beat the S&P 500 over the next 12 months. We split everything from there.
Well, how far is the S&P down from its high? It's still like 36%, or is it less than now, 16%?
Yeah, it's down about 15, 16%.
15, 16. 36 was at the worst back in late March. Okay. All right. So, well, that shouldn't be too hard to beat. What's a good year in the stock market is 20% with a good index fund. So, if we're talking about crypto, if it moons, then it should be 20%, should be easy peasy.
But we're talking about you actually trading it.
Trading.
Right. The mark here.
I mean, I'm the type of person this is why I want to talk more with Kenny, but I'm just the type of person to hodl, and I'll just take my profits. That's 70, 80K or maybe more.
I'm with you on that, Alejandro. I'm not smart enough to trade. I mean, I think the market. I think the market takes the most amount of money from the most people most of the time. So I don't even get involved. Just simple DCA, buy and hold is my strategy. But Kenny, what about you? Where do you think we'll be either in 2 weeks or at the end of the year or 2030? Any number you want to throw out?
I could see ourselves towards the end of the year reaching 9,000, right? And it's every year. From what I've noticed around Christmas time, we either see a big move up or we see a big move down, right? So somewhere around Christmas, I'll be looking a lot more closely. I think we'll probably get a dump. I'm a little not as optimistic on this side, but I do see potential for upward movement at the moment. But I think we're just not ready for that big push yet. But I do agree with holding it long term is the best strategy for Bitcoin, right? It's so volatile to be traded.
I'm gonna go with Kenny because I'm too damn bullish. So I like to have my expectations set low, and when it surpasses, I'm like, oh yeah.
I think a lot of what you said previously was super important, right? That in all the previous halvings, we did not have the financial big Wall Street people inputting what they wanted. For example, futures markets, the day futures markets opened was the day Bitcoin tanked from 19K. I mean, there's a lot of manipulation in play now. Plus 2 backed is around. So you're seeing money flow in that was not able to flow in beforehand just because those railways are in place. Also, too, I mean, pre-having, anybody that's buying Bitcoin is that buying it in large, significant amounts is buying it over the counter. So you're not seeing that reflected on your Coinbases or charts like that. So price prediction 2022 is what I like to predict. I'm going to say, this is really bold, but I'm going to say 200K Bitcoin, not off any charts like you guys, but we'll see what happens. I think that it's important to keep in mind that the fundamentals are there, that and although there is like Wall Street manipulation that's in play right now, the fundamentals of Bitcoin being a form of money that's outside of the control of governments is really important, and we need to remember that, especially when on average a country's currency goes from inflation to hyperinflation within about a year. So that's probably going to happen in the United States, especially if they keep printing money. I think they're printing $125 billion a day right now.
Well, we don't need the United States to do it. There's so many other countries that are printing money, little tiny countries, that they can drive the thing up. I remember when Venezuela started using crypto, it went up like 8% that day, So I think 22.5. Fuck it. 22.5. I never give predictions.
And so this is not financial advice.
I'm not a financial analyst. 22.5 before all these guys. You know what? It's going to slow. It's got that big, heavy thing about 1920. Maybe she'll go a little over a little, and then she'll come retract back. 22.5. Fuck
it. Anything to piss Peter Schiff off, I'm all in favor of.
All right. Thanks for listening. Bye. I'm leaving the chat, but I'll be watching you guys.
Thanks, Erica, for jumping in. I guess personally, I think hey, look, man, I would love to just clear fucking skies from here and just back to 5-figure Bitcoin, but I'm always watching over my shoulder for the next dump. I think you could still see a dump in the next 2 weeks here as, maybe a bunch of miners shut down. But I think by the end of the year, new all-time high, absolutely guaranteed. I'm not going to make a McAfee comment there, but I almost want to. But I think when you look at the bigger, macro picture of where the money's going, what the money printers are doing, how out of control the zombie economy is getting, it's unsound versus sound money at the end of the day. And I forgot who said it. It might have been Jason, but it reiterates, it re-emphasizes what was etched into the Genesis block. Chance are on the brink of a second bailout for banks. So this is the exact reason why Bitcoin was created. So look, we all know it's not going to be just rainbows and smooth sailing. It's going to be a shit show. It's going to be a clusterfuck. But if you got, iron hands and you're willing to ride the waves, then you're going to be graciously rewarded. So, patience favors the brave for this one. I don't know what the hell I was trying to say there. But
favors the bold. Fortune
favors the bold, but the patient too. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Definitely stay tuned to our content calendar. We have events going on every single day of the week. Tomorrow we have a regulatory panel. Adam's going to be joining us again for Dev Wednesdays. Thursday we actually have a special event that is going to be exiting the dollar, gold versus crypto. Nick will be on that. Erica will be on that. So give us a follow on Twitter, on IG, subscribe to our YouTube. Big shout out to Kenny and Jason. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us. Thank you, Nick, Alejandro, and Adam as well. But Stay
Yeah,
safe.
I didn't realize it was Trading Tuesday. I'm sorry about that. I didn't notice. I thought it was just like a general live stream.
It's all good. We definitely need a political show, maybe either a 2-hour or a 3-hour, just political benders, really getting into the socio.
No, I mean, it's cool. It's cool. I just didn't know. I didn't see the Trading Tuesday. I probably should have saw that. It was right in front of me, but I didn't realize you guys were talking charts. I went off. Sorry.
It's all good. It's
I
all
control
good.
myself sometimes.
We saved the best for last there, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate everyone. Stay safe and see you next time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Peace.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Signing off.
Kenny, what's your Discord?